Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, we are, once again, looking right at a story that is just off the wall. It's off the wall, right? Get a load of this one. But I will say, we haven't looked at a little old one like this, though, quite before. Staudte, right? What a name. I wish I could say that was the most interesting thing about them. As do they. Springfield, Missouri is our home today, and like I said, though, this one is just a little bit more unusual than usual. So, hey, come on, let's stop kicking the tires. Give it a go. Springfield, Missouri, home for us today. We've been there a couple of times before. Once when those tree women went missing, the something tree, I don't know, whatever. Gypsy Rose also. Moving on. The Queen City of the Ozarks is home to about 170,000 folk, and it's ranked in the top places to live in the US. While it has some rough crime and isolated spots, it's a growing, youthful city. And not too far from some beautiful, cliffs, rivers, trees and It's an up-and-coming city full of things to do and places to go. Great, so maybe, a little less misery in Missouri, but not so much for our family. Today's family, that's the Staudtes. By the way, Staudte, that's German for an English word Google Translate wouldn't tell me.
Staudte.
Dang it. But before those days, there were some happy days. Trademarked ABC 1974. The Staudte family were made up of Mark and Diane, high school sweethearts in Kansas. So let me just pump the brakes there for a second. I'm describing them as high school sweethearts, right, Mark and Diane, because when I was researching this topic, that's how they were generally described. There was a 10-year age difference between Mark and Diane, so... Later marrying on the 28th of December 1985. The Staudte family would eventually grow to 6, if you can believe that, with the arrival of Sean in July 1986, so that was a shotgun wedding, followed by 3 more children, 3 daughters. You got Sarah, Rachel, and Brianna. Diane, she worked as a clinical supervisor for United Healthcare in Springfield. And in her spare time, she did a bit of fingering. The organ at the local Redeemer Lutheran Church. Mark himself, just work? Work? What? Come on, yeah. Wasn't for him. He was an axe man, and boy could he shred the harmonica. Messin' with Destiny was the gang, a rock and roll country dance band, only in the Springfield, Branson area. On the side though, he would occasionally pull pints where he could, to get some sweet green. A musical bunch, both. Diane, the real breadwinner, in the family. Diane was always described as a little quieter, maybe a little, standoffish, right? Next to gregarious Mark over here, some crack. Their children grew up in the area, living in a small house on West Page Street. 3 bedrooms for 6 people. Rachel, seemingly by far Diane's special girl. She posted pictures of her non-stop. The youngest daughter, Brianna, she had some learning difficulties, while the oldest son, Sean, he had autism. Sarah graduated from the Missouri State University. Graduated, and that was, kind of end of list. She was struggling to get a job now she was out of college and back home. Back home, only this time, with a big old minus in the bank account. As I said, Diane seemed to be a big fan of Rachel, who made the Dean's List time and time again, and was into religious music like her mama. So far, interesting family dynamic. Seen weirder though. But hey, I hear you barking, big dog, right? When is this gonna get odd and weird as shit? Well, I retort, just wait. In April 2012, messing with Destiny, they were about to get messed with by Destiny. Rock on. The band were doing pretty decent, the gigs becoming more and more commonplace in the bars in Branson. They were making a name for themselves. On the 6th of April, it was a Friday, the band were getting set up, to do a couple more gigs, rock on. They noticed Mark was a little off. He was a little green around the gills, as they say. Who, Fish? He just wasn't himself. His friends would say, as it went on, his skin took a yellowish tinge, jaundiced, kinda. He appeared wrong. And he was wrong. It was Easter Sunday. That year it was the 8th of April that a police officer was called to the Staudte home. Mark was dead. It was the day after he turned 61 years old. When questioned, Diane said he had been feeling weak the last few days, eating less, sleeping more. That day, that Sunday, throughout it, she had been, checking on him. And every time she did, he could only grunt or sometimes not even manage that. She said he had 3 seizures that day, the last one 45 minutes before she found him dead, after she returned from a church service. When asked why the shit, she didn't call 911, he needs medical attention, he needs a doctor, she said Mark, he had told her he didn't want to go. He had a ring of blood around his mouth, which was kind of odd. But other than that, there was no signs of trauma, no signs of injury. And it was basically just chalked up to natural causes, What those causes were? Well, no autopsy was done. Mark, he didn't have the healthiest lifestyle. He wasn't like on drugs, or alcohol, but he didn't exercise. He ate like shit, and so they chalked it up to that. It was a sad time for everyone. Mark, he was beloved by everybody. His band, they played at a memorial for him, and as hard as it is, life just kind of went on. And hey, little something for your troubles. A life insurance policy, alright, but not the usual, cha-ching we see. It was only like 20 grand. I mean, nothing to sneeze at, but not like these $500,000 things we tend to see in these, I know what you're thinking. Not that. It was big enough that 2 months after Mark's death, Diane bought a bigger house in a nicer neighborhood for the family. Only a 10-minute drive from the old place. A familiar visit would be made to the new Staudte home. An ambulance. On the 2nd of September 2012, less than 6 months after Mark's death, a 911 call was made as a family member was not breathing. It was 26-year-old Sean. Diane had once again, come upon a dead family member when she returned from church at 12:30 p.m. She had spoken to him the night before. She said he was feeling sick, nauseous, aches, diarrhea, things he had been experiencing for a few weeks at this point, and had checked on him a couple of times throughout the night before heading off to grind the organ. Once again, there was no signs of trauma, injury on his body. He had a ring of blood kind of around his mouth, but other than that, it was death by natural causes. Prior medical issues is what the medical examiner would jot down. And Sean, like his father, was cremated a couple of days later. And the family became even more isolated, more kind of standoffish. Crazy and tragic that, in less than a 6-month period, a father and son would both die of the exact same causes, natural causes, It seemed unnatural that they would both die of natural causes, you know? But nothing seemed untoward. What a year of change indeed. 6 months later, Sarah was in critical, and I mean shite, condition in the hospital. Another tragedy to strike the family in just over a year. Fucking hell. Obviously Diane saw this coming. Maybe Sarah had been ill for a few days, weeks like her brother and dad, so fool me twice, etc, etc. It really did not seem like she would pull through. Her kidneys shut down, pancreas was out the door, bleeding in the brain. And all the while this was going on, the police, they received a call. Anonymous. The caller said that Diane, right, was responsible for possibly 2, maybe even 3 homicides. What? This anonymous person mentioned Mark and Sean by name, you know, as the 2, and presumably, you know, Sarah was gonna be the 3. And so, after the call, the detectives, they went to the hospital, following up, and spoke with docs and nurses. And they were telling the detective that, yep, she was in a serious, potentially fatal condition, and they didn't know what was wrong with her. They also told the detective that Diane had visited a few times, not staying too long, and had been acting inappropriate. Joking, laughing, unconcerned with Sarah's concerning condition. In fact, she was more concerned with a trip to Florida she was going to take in a week, you know? Not giving 2 shits about her dying daughter, you know? She just had palm trees in her eyes. One of the docs then said, you know, how he thought he had suspicions that this was suspicious. All tests were coming back negative, and so that left really only one conclusion. Poison. The deaths of both Mark and Sean were then re-examined, and, you know, going through the medical examiner's reports, the fact that, you know, they both died of what appeared to be the exact same thing, you know, symptoms were the same, the ring of blood around the mouth was the same, and now this same thing was affecting Sarah. Coincidence me bollocks. Things were starting to look better for Sarah around the 18th of June. She was out of the ICU. The police then decided to speak with Diane.
Is it Stout?
Staudte.
Diane and Mark weren't as happy as others thought, but they loved each other.
It was not what you call a good marriage.
So he wasn't a very good guy, is what you're
Not,
saying?
yeah. I know, you know, I've had friends who told me I should kick him out, but I couldn't find myself kicking him out.
Why not?
I was afraid he'd kill himself.
But she didn't do anything to anyone. Only thing is, she could have taken Sarah to the ER sooner.
But it wasn't that bad.
Not
I
that.
mean, I've seen the flu bug worse.
Have you been able to talk to her?
Yeah. And she doesn't remember.
She doesn't remember
She
anything.
doesn't remember anything. Sarah's a difficult child to deal with.
I understand.
And I've been kind of putting pressure on her to, you know, you need to get out and get a job. Your college bills are coming due. I don't want to pay for them. You know, after all, you get tired of doing everything for your kids, and it's like you need to step up and do it. As far as did I do something to her, I didn't do anything to her. I mean, I guess I could have taken her to the ER sooner, but I didn't know. I don't know. I don't know. I know I didn't do anything.
That was the first, you know, crack. The next was her admitting that they had drank antifreeze because she'd given them antifreeze.
I'm horrible. I'm a horrible mother. And to put it really short and sweet, I knew they were drinking antifreeze. And I was so mad at him, I didn't want to take him down.
You knew, Diane, that they were drinking antifreeze because you were giving it to them.
I didn't know what else to do. I really didn't. I should have just killed myself.
Diane researched antifreeze as a poison on the internet, and then over a 3-day period, put it in Mark's Gatorade. A few months later, she put it in Sean's Coke over a 2-day period. She did the same thing to her oldest daughter.
How long had you been giving them the antifreeze before they finally got, like before Sean passed and before Sarah?
Maybe a couple of days.
And what were you putting it in?
Coca-Cola.
What else?
I think that was it.
How much would you put in?
I don't know. Just a little bit.
And why just a little bit?
I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to hurt them.
When did you start with Mark?
I didn't. I don't think I did it on Mark.
Diane, you got to be honest about everything again. Let's not keep going over this because just when I feel you're finally starting to do the right thing, you got to be honest with me about everything. When did you start with Mark?
A couple of days before.
Okay.
I guess it goes without saying, but if you slurp down some antifreeze, you're not gonna have a good time. It's easy to poison with too because it's odorless. It's a little bit sweet. So if you put it in you put it in Gatorade, you put it in a Coke, you ain't gonna know. A few hours after you suck it down, you'd act drunk. Then after about 12 hours, you'd be in deep shit. It absorbs into your system real quick. And in your kidneys, crystals form. You'd act more and more drunk, tired, groggy, slurring your words, puking. Then it'll begin attacking your kidney, your lungs, your brain, your nervous system, rapid breathing, heart will go crazy, convulsing. Then coma, then death. And it doesn't take much, only a couple of tablespoons. We've seen this in a case before. Stacy Castor. She also used it as a poison on multiple people. Now, right, you're asking, what's the motive? What's the why? There wasn't a huge amount of, that, right? 20 grand for Mark, right? It's not really exactly enough to murder someone. And there was nothing for the other the two kids. It's not like they had life insurance policies, so she wouldn't get anything out of that. Financially, anyway. Her reasons were more, mundane, to be honest. She just kind of fucking hated them.
Just a lot of arguments. Both Sean and Sarah would just basically, I don't know, trash the house. They would do whatever they wanted to do and never helped support or even contribute.
She hated Mark. Hated that he did nothing. Hated that he could get angry at times.
It wasn't about the money, was it just about hating him so much?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know. He would throw things at me. He would throw things at the kids. And I guess I just had enough.
So were you there kind of pretty much checking on him regularly to make sure when he was, and then when he finally did die, then you called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hated he didn't help support the family. hated that he was out drinking with his band while she earned the bread and went to church. Sean, she viewed him as a pest, nothing more. Someone to get rid of, someone she'd be better off without. He was dead weight.
And then Sean, how did stuff get started with Sean?
Sean would be interfering with whatever I would do, to the point where he was getting into my work. And I would have to tell him, you need to leave, go to your room, go do something. He would just, how can I explain this? I don't know how to explain it. You get to the point where you just pull out your hair. Because I didn't know what else to do with him.
So he was just a constant bother. Wouldn't leave you alone.
I think it's more than a bother.
Would a pest, would that be a good word for it?
Oh, it's more than that.
Sarah, much the same, because she couldn't get a job and had student loans.
And then with Sarah, you talked about, she wasn't getting a job, and then she had these student loans, and you were going to end up having to pay for them.
That's pretty much.
And you just had it with her as well.
More, as Diane would put it, dead weight to be cut from the SS Staudte.
I regret doing it. I really do. I've screwed up everybody. I've screwed up my whole family.
And it turned out that Diane had not acted alone. Her favourite daughter, well, it turns out that they may have in reality been as thick as thieves. Thick as murderers, actually. See, when they were searching the Staudte home, they came across a diary in one of the rooms describing the planning of the murders. Planning of over a year. In June 2011, she wrote, "It's sad when I realize how my father will pass on in the next 2 months. Sean, my brother, will move on shortly after. It will be tough getting used to the changes, but everything will work out." The next day, Rachel was interviewed. She admitted she had been involved with Diane, with her mother.
Sean, we argued on a lot because I still think we could have put him in a assisted living, but she wanted him out.
What did you say when she talked about killing Sarah?
Sarah was equally unneeded. You could have found someplace else for her. She was very adamant on that Sarah was just a burden, that Sarah needed to be taken care of.
They had both researched different ways to do it. From pills to strangulation to even some what they thought would be magic, Wicca, whatever.
Witchcraft. I'll say that right now.
So how are you guys getting her the drinks without her knowing about it?
She's on the computer a lot, on YouTube a lot, on sites like that a lot. And she's easily distracted. It wouldn't take much to get whatever drink she did have and just slip it real quick.
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
I'd like to know why you guys eventually took, when Sarah got so bad. I know you guys said you thought that she was pretty much dead, but why did you take her to the hospital?
I didn't want another one to die in the house.
And why is that?
Because houses are nasty after somebody's died in it.
Okay, and what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
I get a lot of nightmares. After Sean died, I moved into his room and it was awful, awful, awful in there. I kept feeling things in there. Just didn't want that again. Didn't really think I would get caught. Stupid now that I think on it. But no, I didn't really think I would.
Did you want it to just be you and your mother?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because she understands me. She doesn't annoy me.
Prosecutors say that both her and her daughter Rachel killed Diane's husband and Rachel's brother with antifreeze. It's a complex case in that it involves 3 different crimes committed over a span of time.
Her motives were her mother's motives. Let's get rid of these shitebags so we can be free. It's like natural selection. Only there's nothing natural about it. You gotta earn your keep, and by keep, Diane meant life. Not only was her diary found, when she was arrested in her handbag a poem, also which read, "Once upon a time there were 6, now there are 3. Only the quiet ones will be left, my mom, my little sister, and me." Whoa, slow down there. Insert famous poet. They were both charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of assault in the first degree, and 1 count of armed criminal action. It turned out it was her pastor, by the way, Diane's pastor, you know, from the Redeemer Lutheran Church, who was the anonymous phone caller. I guess she should have, you know, not been fingering the organ. It didn't work out too well for her. It's not like she even said it. He just had his suspicions about how she was acting and called it in. Sarah survived, just about, but she had difficulties, neurological damage from the poisoning. She had to relearn how to walk and how to talk. In 2016, Diane, she took an Alford plea. One of these again, Jesus! She didn't acknowledge any wrongdoing, only that there was enough to convict her. Her own words will just about do that. This, however, allowed her to dodge the death penalty, and she was sentenced to life without parole. She also took the Alford plea because Rachel pled guilty. In a deal with prosecutors, agreeing to testify against her mother, she pled guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison with parole.
I wrote the statement with Sarah in mind.
Today, Rachel Staudte had to face the sister she tried to get away with murdering. She told her sister she's learned no one should be surprised with the evil humans are capable of.
What's really amazing is that despite of the bad, that there are those who choose to forgive the ones who hurt them. And that takes a rare kind of bravery.
Should you have for your mom, would you say?
I forgive her for what she did to me. Not only she took away my dead brother, but she took away my livelihood, independence.
Right.
I am a Christian, and I believe forgiveness is the only way to go.
The fact that Diane could do it to her own husband of so many decades, almost 3 decades, and to her own 2 children is just about insane. More insane than usual, is what I mean. And for no motive at all. You know, at least with the financial ones as effed up as it is, you can kind of see it. And this one, she was just pissed off at them. They were pests to her, you know, you're out of life. She was so matter-of-fact about everything as well. It was creepy as shit for someone who was supposedly a completely normal person. Up until this point, Diane murdered 2 members of her own family and tried to do it to a 3rd one. Because in her mind, you know, they were useless. When, in actuality, it turns out that Diane was the biggest sack of shit waste of space of all. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to do so and be here right now listening to me yammer on. Here, listen, go on. Please, I'll see you, you know, as always, real soon in the next video. Until then, please, the only thing I ask is that you take care of yourself. I love you. Okay.